Taurus, you're watching someone you love drift away from you in slow motion. They may still be physically present in your life, still responding to your messages, still showing up in the same places, but you feel, with a certainty that gnaws at your core, that they're no longer truly there. It's like watching someone cross an invisible bridge to the other side of a river you can't cross. You scream, you reach out, you try to run after them, but there's a force greater than the two of you at work in this separation. A force that doesn't ask your permission, doesn't wait for you to be ready, doesn't care how much it hurts. And what breaks your Taurus heart isn't discovering this person was fake or toxic. What tears you apart is just the opposite. You truly love this person. They didn't hurt you on purpose. They didn't betray you, deceive you, or use you. You're simply being separated by something neither of you can control. It's as if God has decided your time together is over. And no matter how much you fight, no matter how much you cling, no matter how many tears you shed into your pillow when no one is looking, the separation is happening. This goes against everything you are. Taurus builds to last. You don't make superficial connections that can be easily discarded. When you love someone, whether romantically through deep friendship or family ties, you invest your entire soul in that relationship. You put down roots so deep that ripping that person from your life feels like ripping out part of your very being. And now God is asking exactly that of you, to rip them out, to let go, to release the one you swore never to abandon. You've been feeling it growing, haven't you? That awful feeling that something is ending even though nothing obvious has changed. Conversations that once flowed naturally now feel forced. Silences that were once comfortable now feel heavy, laden with unspoken words. The future plans you used to make together have simply stopped being mentioned, as if you both know, without saying so, that there will be no shared future. And the part that confuses you most is that you can't put your finger on a clear reason. There was no devastating fight. There was no obvious betrayal. There was no dramatic moment that justified the end. It was just a gradual, silent, inevitable drifting apart, as if you two were on different currents of a river, growing further and further apart, and no matter how hard you row, you can't seem to get back together. This is especially painful because you, as a Taurus, believe that true love and sufficient effort can overcome any obstacle. You've always been the person who doesn't give up, who stays, who weathers storms because you believe in the value of deep connections. But now you're discovering that there are separations that have nothing to do with a lack of love or a lack of effort. There are separations orchestrated by greater forces, separations necessary for spiritual growth that only happens when you're alone, without the familiar support of certain presences. The person being taken away from you could be someone with whom you shared the best moments of your life. Someone who knows your deepest secrets, who has been by your side through battles no one else has seen, who understands you in ways no one else can. And that's precisely why separation is so devastating. You're not losing a casual acquaintance, you're losing a piece of your own history. For Tauruses born between April 20th and April 30th, this divine separation likely involves someone who has always represented emotional security in your life, a longtime partner, a childhood friend, or a family member who has always been your anchor. For those born between May 1st and 10th, the separation is happening with someone you deeply admired, whom you saw as an example or inspiration. For those born between May 11th and 20th, God is separating you from someone with whom you shared dreams and future projects, someone with whom you had built plans that are now crumbling. What makes this a divine intervention and not just a common drift apart is the way it's happening. You realize that no matter what you do, things don't get better. Every attempt to reconnect only seems to further highlight how much you no longer fit together as before. Every effort to keep the relationship alive ends up leaving you more exhausted and sad. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how hard you squeeze, it runs through your fingers. And perhaps the scariest part is that you feel like once this person is completely gone from your life, there will be no going back. It won't be one of those temporary separations where you reunite later. It will be a definitive goodbye, a closing of a cycle that won't reopen. And this terrifies you because you've never been good at endings. You're made to build, to maintain, to preserve, not to let go. But here's the brutal truth you need to face. God isn't doing this to punish you. He's doing it because you need space to grow in ways that aren't possible, while this person still occupies so much space in your life. While you can still lean on them, still seek comfort in their presence, you won't develop certain inner strengths that only arise in solitude. Certain aspects of your soul only awaken when you no longer have anyone to hide behind. The separation you're experiencing is painful precisely because it's necessary. If it were easy, if it were from someone you don't care about, it wouldn't have the power to transform you. But when God removes someone your heart truly loves, when He forces you to stand alone without the presence that has always sustained you, He is forcing a level of growth you would never willingly choose, but which your soul desperately needs. Taurus, I know that as you listen to me, you're feeling that tightness in your chest that comes when you think of this person. You're remembering specific moments that now seem distant, almost unreal. Memories that once warmed your heart, but now only make you feel a painful nostalgia for something that no longer exists in the same way. And maybe you felt alone in this pain. Maybe you thought you were overreacting, that you should just accept it and move on. But I need you to know what you're feeling is real. The pain of losing someone you love, even when there was no betrayal or malice, is one of the deepest pains there is, and you have every right to grieve this loss. But you also need to know that you're not alone. Other Taurians are going through similar divine separations right now, and when you acknowledge your pain, when you put into words what you're experiencing, you help others do the same. You break the heavy silence that makes people think they're the only ones suffering. Leave a comment now saying, "I'm learning that letting go of the one I love can be the greatest act of self-love." It's not easy to write this, but when you do, something inside you shifts. You're acknowledging reality, honoring your pain, but also making room for the transformation this separation is trying to bring you. And your courage may inspire someone else who's in the same situation but afraid to admit it. The preparation mentioned in the title isn't about strengthening yourself emotionally to avoid pain. It's about accepting that pain will come anyway and learning to move through it instead of resisting it. Because when you resist a divine separation, when you try to hold on tooth and nail to something God has already decided to remove, you only prolong your agony and delay your own growth. Preparing means starting to say small goodbyes while that person is still partially present. It means consciously observing the last moments together, knowing they are the last. It means beginning to process grief even before the loss is complete. It's like slowly saying goodbye to someone who is leaving on a journey of no return. You'll need personal rituals for this. Moments where you honor everything this person meant to you, where you're grateful for the memories and lessons, where you acknowledge that what you shared was real and valuable even if it wasn't eternal. It might mean writing a letter that will never be sent. It might mean revisiting places where you created memories together. It might simply mean sitting in silence and allowing the tears to fall without judgment. Taurus, your natural tendency will be to try to salvage this relationship. You'll want to have that definitive conversation where you finally resolve everything. You'll want to make grand gestures to prove your love and commitment. You'll want to fight until your last breath for the connection you cherish so much. But I need to tell you something difficult. When it's a divine separation, your human actions have no power to reverse it. This doesn't mean you're weak or that you haven't tried hard enough. It means there are forces at work that transcend individual will. God is moving pieces on the board of your life in ways that you can't yet see the full picture. And as much as it hurts, as much as it seems unfair, you will need to trust that there is a greater purpose in this separation. The person being pushed away from you probably feels the same confusion. They may also be struggling with the separation, and they may not understand why you can't connect like you used to. Or maybe they've already given into the process, and you're the only one still clinging. Either way, resistance only makes it more painful. What you need to understand is that this person isn't being removed from your life because you don't deserve them, or because they did something wrong. They're being removed because their presence, however loving, is preventing you from accessing versions of yourself that only emerge in their absence. They're being removed because you both have different paths ahead of you that can't be walked together. There are lessons your soul came to learn in this life that can only be learned in solitude. Strengths that only you can develop when you have no one else to share the burden. Talents and abilities that remain dormant while you can lean on someone, but that blossom when you find yourself alone and need to find inner resources you didn't even know you had. Separation is forcing you to discover who you are when you're not defined by your relationships. For Taurus, who invests so much of their identity in being loyal, trustworthy, and present to those they love, this is particularly challenging. You're being called to discover who you are when you're not being that way for anyone else. Who is Taurus when they're not building for two people, but only for themselves? Over the next few months, you'll experience waves of grief that come without warning. You'll be having a normal day and suddenly something will remind you of that person. A song, a smell, a place, a random phrase, and the pain will overwhelm you again. You'll feel like you're regressing, like you're not healing, like it will always hurt like this. But that's part of the process. Grief isn't linear. It comes in waves. Some big ones that knock you down, others smaller ones that just leave you feeling melancholic. And gradually, very gradually, the gaps between waves get longer. The pain doesn't disappear completely, but you learn to swim in these waters instead of drowning in them. There will also be moments when you question everything. You'll wonder if this was truly a divine separation, or if you simply didn't fight hard enough. You'll wonder if you should try again, send one more message, make one more effort. These doubts are normal, but I need you to resist the urge to back down. Because when God is separating you from someone, going back only postpones the inevitable and prolongs your pain. It's like trying to revive something that has already served its purpose and is destined to end. You may achieve a brief resurgence, but the essence of the connection is gone, and forcing it to continue only creates a ghost version of something that was once vibrant and alive. Preparation also involves beginning to imagine your life without this person, not in a vengeful or angry way, but in a practical and honest way. What will your mornings be like, your nights, your weekends? Who will you call when something incredible or terrible happens? Who will you share those inside jokes with that only the two of you understood? These questions will hurt at first, but asking them is important because you need to start filling those empty spaces consciously, instead of just existing in the painful vacuum left when someone important leaves. You need to discover new rituals, new supports, new ways of being with yourself that don't depend on that person's presence. Taurus, one of the greatest lessons of this separation is learning that true love sometimes means letting go. Not because you've stopped loving, but because you love enough to recognize that holding on is hurting both of you. Because you respect divine direction, even when you don't fully understand it. Because you trust that if God is orchestrating this separation, it's because both of you have better paths waiting on the other side. And here's something that can comfort you. This person won't be erased from your history. Everything you've experienced together, everything you've learned from each other, everything you've built, it remains within you. They helped shape who you are today. And even if they're no longer physically or emotionally present in your life, their mark on you is permanent. Over time, you'll be able to think of that person with gratitude instead of just pain. You'll be able to honor what you had without wishing it was still happening. You'll be able to look back and see how, as painful as the breakup was, it brought you exactly where you needed to be. But it takes time, and you need to be kind to yourself during this process. There's no deadline for getting over the loss of someone you love deeply. There's no set timetable for grieving. Everyone heals at their own pace. And as a Taurus, who processes everything deeply and slowly, it may take longer than other signs. And that's okay. What's not okay is pretending it doesn't hurt. It's minimizing your own pain because others might not understand. It's forcing yourself to move on before you've properly processed what you've lost. Honor your process. Respect your pain. Allow yourself to feel everything fully before trying to heal. In the months that follow, you'll discover things about yourself that you never would have if that person was still by your side. You'll develop an inner strength that comes only from having gone through something devastating and survived. You'll discover that you can stand on your own 2 feet, even when you thought you would crumble without that person. And gradually, very gradually, the space that person occupied in your life will begin to be filled by other things. Not necessarily another person. Sometimes it's creativity you never had the time to explore. Sometimes it's a project you've always wanted to start, but never had the energy. Sometimes it's simply a deeper relationship with yourself. Taurus, God isn't being cruel to you. He's being the father who sometimes needs to take the child out of the nest so it can learn to fly on its own. He's being the gardener who prunes the plant so it grows stronger. He's being the force that loves you so much that it's willing to let you suffer temporarily so you can reach your full potential. The final preparation involves making a conscious choice. You can resist this separation until the end. You can be bitter about it. You can let it destroy you. Or you can, in the midst of the pain, choose to see it as a divine invitation for your own transformation. You can choose to trust that if this person is leaving, it's because something better or a better you can only emerge in their absence. I'm not saying it's easy to make this choice. I'm saying it's possible, and that when you do, when you finally surrender to what's happening instead of fighting it, something changes. The pain doesn't disappear, but it gains purpose. The loss doesn't become less real, but rather becomes part of a larger narrative of growth and evolution. You'll look back years from now and understand why this separation had to happen. You'll see how it freed you to discover aspects of yourself that had been buried. You'll recognize how, as painful as it was also a gift disguised as a loss. But for now, you don't need to understand everything. You don't need to see the whole picture. You just need to take the next small step. You just need to survive another day, another night, another moment of overwhelming longing. And eventually, these small steps will lead you to the other side of this storm. If this video touched something deep within you, if you recognized your own story in these words, don't carry it alone. Share in the comments your strength, your process, your decision to trust even when you don't understand. You don't have to give details, just acknowledge that you're going through this and are choosing to grow through the pain. Subscribe to the channel because your healing is a long process that requires constant support. There will be days when you'll need to be reminded why you're doing this, that the separation has a purpose, that you're stronger than you think. Turn on notifications to receive this support whenever you need it. God is separating you from those you love, not because you don't deserve love, but because you deserve a version of yourself that can only be born when you are alone with yourself. Prepare yourself not for the end, but for the beginning of something you can't yet imagine, but that your soul already recognizes as necessary.